Honorable Senators, I salute you all. I thank all the senators and distinguished personalities at this conference for expressing their support for the Iranian people's uprising. In a few days, the uprising to overthrow religious fascism will begin its fourth month. These 3 months filled with sacrifice and suffering are the best indications that the regime's overthrow is inevitable. Since Monday, nationwide strikes of merchants have further shaken the regime to its foundation. University and high school students continue their protests demanding an end to the regime. All evidence shows that the regime has reached the point of no return in the final phase of its rule. The Shah's dictatorship had a well-equipped army of 400,000 men, but it could not overcome the will of the Iranian people. The same is true in the present circumstances. The Revolutionary Guard, IRGC, and its arsenal of missiles and drones, terrorism and crimes in Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, and Yemen could not save Khamenei. Fortunately, today, American public opinion and the U.S. Congress sincerely stand by the Iranian people. Unfortunately, some people in the U.S. State Department are still exchanging messages with the mullahs regime, hoping to get along with them. On November 16, the mullahs foreign minister said they were constantly exchanging messages with the U.S. and made their latest exchange less than 72 hours before. These relations amid the uprising provide more opportunities for the regime to escalate repression. In the previous uprisings, the Iranian people questioned the U.S. on where it stands. Will they stand on their side or beside their murderers? This question is more critical today than ever, considering the revolution developing across the country for the past 3 months. The U.S. has this historic opportunity to stand on the right side of history. Let me recall a fundamental principle that the Iranian people and their resistance rely on their uprising and sacrifices to overthrow the regime. To achieve freedom, they do not want or need the interference of any foreign government in Iranian affairs. But they expect all governments, especially the U.S., to refrain from giving concessions or assistance to their enemy. Honorable Senators and distinguished personalities, the Iranian uprising has so far proved some fundamental realities. It has been proven that biased studies and research produced in Washington indicating that the regime has a popular base were wrong. In these 3 months, protesters denounced all forms of dictatorship and rejected the present and past regimes in their slogans. It was also confirmed that the regime's missile and nuclear programs and its expansionism in the region are to cover up its crisis in the country and its major war, which is the Iranian people's struggle to overthrow the regime. In his speech on November 26, Khamenei was clear. He said they would not abandon their nuclear programs. He stressed that they continue their missile and drone programs and interventions in the Middle East. As it is his usual method, Khamenei will not withdraw from negotiations to be able to insist on demanding lifting of sanctions and, on the other hand, accelerate quietly his nuclear projects. According to IAEA reports and experts' assessments, in the past 20 months, after the new round of negotiations that in practice the sanctions were loosened, the regime made more progress in its nuclear projects. The regime can also take advantage of talks with the US and the West to crack down the Iranian society and create regional wars. Today, Khamenei and those ruling Iran commit more crimes to preserve their rotten rule. From opening fire on defenseless protesters in the streets to blinding children and youth with pellet guns to sexual assaults on detainees and, most horrifying of all, the slaughter of children. Some 70 children from 2 to 17 years old have been killed by the repressive forces. Hundreds of children have been arrested and many face death sentences. The time has come for the US to replace its policy of appeasement, negotiation, and inaction with a firm policy. The uprising in Iran will not only establish freedom and democracy, but will also end the increasing threats posed by the regime to regional and global peace. Our people are paying with blood the price of fighting a religious dictatorship. Why aren't the governments and international institutions taking any steps except issuing ineffective statements? Why a child-killing regime that brutally represses women and imposes discrimination against them is a member of the UN institutions? Isn't this an insult to humanity? The regime's membership in the Commission on the Status of Women and its membership in UNICEF should be terminated immediately. Fortunately, the process of expulsion from the CSW is underway. The Iranian resistance expects the US Senate to lead an initiative to expel the regime from UNICEF. It is time for the United States and its allies in the P5+1 to, instead of continuing negotiations, which will only serve regimes' criminal policies, impose all the UN Security Council resolutions against the regime and return the sanctions without delay. It is also expected that the US end the widespread illegal activities of the Iranian regime's lobbies on US soil. They are the political and media backers of the ongoing slaughter in Iran. The time has come for the US Senate to recognize the Iranian people's struggle to overthrow the regime and the legitimate right of Iranian youth to fight the IRGC. I thank you all.